Okay, so I'm recording as usual, and we stopped last time here at ATP, which is abbreviation for adenosine triphosphate, and I explained exactly what does it mean, and basically the structure is something important to know. Adenosine triphosphate, let's cut it into pieces. Adenosine, this part in the blue circle is adenine, it's a base. And then the one that's circled with red, this is the sugar that's called ribose. So adenosine is adenine plus sugar ribose. This is adenosine. It's called adenosine triphosphate. It is one phosphate, two phosphate, three phosphates. That's why we call it adenosine triphosphate. What if I remove like this part right here and leave those? It's called adenosine di. Di means two. Tri means three. What if I removed two phosphates and I just leave one? It's going to be adenosine monophosphate. If I remove the three, it is adenosine only. So adenosine, add one phosphate, adenosine monophosphate, add the second one, adenosine diphosphate, add the third one, adenosine triphosphate. And it's important to know that when I say add one, it means attach. And if you wanted to attach, you have to put some energy to attach you. And this is how it works. Like right here, and like look at this circle right here, look at this. What's holding the third phosphate to the second one? This link right here is high energy link. And this high energy link is storing energy between phosphate 2 and 3. How about between 1 and 2 and between 1 and the sugar? Yes, there is energy bond in there, but it's not, this is not the one that's used to be consumed as an energy. The only one that we actually use to gain energy is this one right here. Okay, so like you get adenosine diphosphate, you put some energy, and then add the third one. So this bond right here is called high energy bond between the second and the third. So this is adenosine triphosphate. You need energy. What should I do now? Yes, break down this one, the third one, and you end up having adenosine diphosphate, and the energy is released. Then if you gain energy, not need, what if you gain now? Like you're eating and burning and gaining energy. Where should I put that energy? You put it back here. Put the energy back and then attach the third one. Now it is stored. And we always do that. Adenosine triphosphate, break it down, get the energy out of it. You have now adenosine diphosphate. Then when you have energy, add it and then uh, put the energy and then add the phosphate. This is going to be uh, that's going to be the adenosine triphosphate again. And throughout our entire life, throughout our day, all the time, we move from ADP, ATP, ADP, ATP, and so on. So now how can we get the ATP in order to store it, in order to store the energy in it? Basically, whatever you eat, when you eat something, you break it down mechanically until it goes down all the way to your intestine. In the intestine, you already break it down into the building unit, which is monosaccharide, but specifically glucose. This is what you do. You break it down from entering your mouth all the way until it go to the intestine where it should be absorbed. Break down, break down, break down, break down. Like exactly like I give you like a house, and I ask you break down the wall. You're going to break it down into like two pieces, three pieces, 10 pieces, break, 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 until you end up having the bricks, the building units, the bricks. This is the smallest that you can get. So this is same thing here. And then glucose, which is the building unit, the smallest unit that we can actually absorb. It's small enough to cross our intestinal wall and go to the blood and go to the cells. In the cells, we're going to break down glucose in multiple stages and get energy out of it. Most of the energy that we can get is using oxygen. We don't have to. We don't, not all of them, but I will explain the details. But anyway, so far, glucose enter the cells, we break it down, we get the energy out of it, store it in the form of ATP, so far. Now, here is glucose. It entered the cell. What's the first step to break it down and get energy out of it? The first step that you have to know is called glycolysis. And glycolysis, if you cut it into two pieces, glycolysis. Glyco is referring to glucose. Lysis, we talked about it a couple of times before, it means breakdown. So glycolysis is breaking down glucose. And basically what's going to happen here is you break it down. Glucose is 6 carbon molecule. I'm not asking you to know the details. Like what is the exact structure? You don't have to know that. Just know that it is 6 carbon molecule. And there is hydrogen and oxygen added to it. That's it. Since it is six molecules, how about I can break it down into 3 and 3? Yes, this is what you do in glycolysis. And you end up having 2 units. Each one is called pyruvic acid. And in this process, I'm telling you exactly what you have to know because there are more details that you don't have to know. So this is exactly what you have to know. You get the glucose and you break it down by glycolysis into 2 pieces. One 6 carbon molecule of glucose, you break it down into 3 carbon molecules called pyruvic acid. You will see it, pyruvic acid. And you call that glycolysis. Where does that happen? It happens in the cytoplasm of the cell. We already talked about the cells, and you should have studied what we covered before. So you should know already what's a cytoplasm, what's a nucleus, what's the mitochondria, and so on. So this step is happening in the cytoplasm. You do not need oxygen to break it down. The only time that you need oxygen is in the mitochondria, and I didn't talk about it yet. So this is the first step. In this process of glycolysis, you are going to utilize 2 molecules of ATP and you produce 4. So the net result is 2. And this is exactly what you have to know. What's glycolysis? What's the end product? What's glycolysis? Breaking down glucose. Where does it happen? In the cytoplasm. What's the end product? 2, 3 carbon molecules of pyruvic acid and net result of 2 ATP. How did you get the 2 ATP? You consume 2 and you produce 4. So the net result is 2. And this is exactly what you have to know. Another thing that I want you to know is glucose. We can get glucose from other sources. Like fat and proteins, and we can actually burn fat and proteins in different ways, and I'm going to talk about it. But you call all of these processes together glycolysis, Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, and electron transport chain. We call that cellular respiration. So if I ask you cellular respiration, what's the cellular respiration? 3 steps of burning and breaking down glucose all the way down until you get all ATPs out of it. The first one, I talked about it. Now I have 2 units of pyruvic acid. What's going to happen to it? If you have oxygen, it will go to the mitochondria. So the next part should go to the mitochondria. Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, so I didn't exactly catch that. You said it was pyruvic acid. Is that going to be on a slide? and all
Yes,
this other stuff.
it's
in the
coming. You
other
will
slide.
see it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so 2-pyruvic acid. What is the fate of the 2-pyruvic acid? The answer is it depends. Do you have oxygen or not? If you have oxygen, they will move to the mitochondria. And in the mitochondria, those two are going to happen. What determine if those two are going to happen or not? If you have oxygen, mitochondria will not work without oxygen. If you have enough oxygen, mitochondria will open up, take the pyruvic acid, and put it into the next 2 cycles. You will be asked about this. These are basics. The components, where exactly does it happen? What's the end product? How many ATPs do I get out of this? Here is the next step. This is too much. This is too much. You don't need to know like all these. This is actually biochemistry. So you don't need to know all these details. If you are just interested to look at it, that's okay. But our main thing is cellular respiration, not the photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, it happens in plants and others, not just plants. But our focus is cellular respiration. So here it is. Here is step number 1. What is this red? This is the cytosol, which is the fluid component of the cytoplasm. Should I say cytosol or cytoplasm? Both of them are okay. The cytosol is part of the main part of the cytoplasm. So what happened in the cytosol in this part? Glucose break down in several steps that we don't have to know. But just here is pyruvic acid you're asking about. You end up having 2 of these molecules. This is didn't need oxygen. What do you call it? Anaerobic. And I told you that before. If you're collecting the prefixes and suffixes, I told you already that an, or just a, or im, or in, all of these means no. So anaerobic, this was anaerobic, meaning you didn't need oxygen. Now the next step, you enter to the mitochondria, only if you have oxygen. What do you call it? Aerobic. Aerobic is coming from air, like air have oxygen, aerobic. So everything happening in this mitochondria, and we talked about the mitochondria before, so I'm assuming that you guys are familiar with this shape. So now I go to the mitochondria if I have oxygen. I'm going to enter into the Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. Yes, you need to know these details that I'm talking about. If there is something that's not important, I will tell you. So you are going to go into Krebs cycle, and you're going to get building some more ATP. Yes, yes.
Should we memorize this sort of picture and like all the parts of the picture, or just understand the process instead?
Yeah, both of them will be great because I'm
Okay.
not sure which part is going to show up in your exam for the pictures.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So here is Krebs cycle, and it's going to give you some more ATP. And then what comes out of the Krebs cycle will move to the next part, which is called electron transport chain, followed by oxidative phosphorylation. And this will give you the vast majority of ATP. You get only 2 from here, you get 2 from here, or 4, and you get the rest from here. Now, I didn't understand what does it mean. What's electron transport chain and what's oxidative phosphorylation? These are big words. What does it mean? Yes, electron transport chain. This is a chain of electrons being transported. It goes out. It happened here in the membrane of the mitochondria, and electrons, they actually are referring to hydrogen. It goes out and goes in, goes out, goes in, goes out, goes in. So this is a chain of transport. And then you will do oxidative phosphorylation. What's oxidative phosphorylation? Yes, ADP, AD P, adenosine diphosphate. When you say phosphorylating it, mean you add phosphate to it. And oxidizing it mean you add the energy to it. So oxidative phosphorylation is the process of adding phosphate and storing the energy in the form of ATP. And this is exactly what you have to know. What else? I already mentioned that glycolysis, it happened in the cytoplasm. Krebs cycle and electron transport chain happen in the mitochondria. Glycolysis is anaerobic. The other two are aerobic because I need oxygen. How many ATPs did you get? 2, but it's say 4 here. Yes, I understand, but you consume 2. So you get 2. And then you're going to get another 2 as you're entering to the Krebs cycle. And for the Krebs cycle, it will give us also 2. But so far, you get 2 from the if they ask you about glycolysis, 2 net. But they can ask you, how did you get the 2? Yes, I consumed 2 and I produced 4, so the net is 2. Okay. Do you know need to know these symbols? No, you do not. It just look at this. This is what I was talking about. It just contains 6 carbons, 12 hydrogen, and 6 oxygen. So this is what I mean by 6 carbon molecule. It's a molecule. Carbon is the main structure. So just to look at it. And you will end up building 2 ATPs. How do I build it? I talked about it before. It's ADP become ATP. So from this, all what I want you to know is already I mentioned. For the ATP part, you need to know we consume 2 and we produce 4. The net result is 2. And this is exactly what you have to know. So this is for glycolysis. You end up making 2 ATPs. The next step is Krebs cycle. Where is the Krebs cycle? It's the mitochondria. Which part? Matrix. Is it aerobic or anaerobic? Of course, both of those are aerobic because they happen in the mitochondria. One more time, the mitochondria does not work without oxygen. That's why we call it aerobic. Is only glycolysis that supply like pyruvic acid here to the Krebs cycle? No, actually, here is pyruvate, which is same as pyruvic acid. No, actually, you can also use fat or protein. You don't need to know the details. Just know that protein can break down and enter here, not through glycolysis, through the Krebs cycle. And protein can also go to the Krebs cycle. That's it. Again, this is biochemistry. I'm not going deeper than that. This is what I want you to know. So glycolysis give you pyruvic acid, go to the Krebs cycle in the mitochondria, aerobic. Also, not just glycolysis, coming from glucose, which is carbohydrate. No, fat and protein also can go into the Krebs cycle. Of course, also if you have oxygen. How many oxygen do I get from here that you're going to ask me about? 2. So I got 2 and 2. This would be too much to know. Just look at it, how it looks like. This is the pyruvic list. 1, 2, 3. Pyruvic acid is 3 carbon molecule. And it's going to go change into something called acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA is going to go to the Krebs cycle. Okay. You don't need to know more details than that because it's kind of too deep to know. Okay, it's maybe in the next higher course you might need to know. But for now, what I'm telling you is good enough. Third one is electron transport chain. Where does it happen? Mitochondria, just like the Krebs cycle. And is it aerobic or anaerobic? I just told you it happened in the mitochondria. Mitochondria doesn't work without oxygen. It is aerobic. How many ATP do I get? Out of this, it is the rest of the ATPs. So I produced 4. So now I can get 28 or 30 from here. And the total is the whole thing. The total is the total coming from the electron transport chain is, I'm sorry, the total come from the electron transport chain is 32 to 34. Where does it happen? In the mitochondria, the Christie, the folds. How about the Krebs cycle? Matrix of the mitochondria, to be specific. How about electron transport chain? Christie of the mitochondria. Too much details. These, just know that these are the shuttles that help us to get hydrogen and bring it to the electron transport chain. It's called NADH and FADH2. Shuttles. They take the hydrogen, send it to the electron transport chain. Good enough. Now look at this process here. This is also something that I want you to know. Look at this. This is the oxidative phosphorylation. So look how these hydrogens coming from Krebs cycle, and they will go like in this chain, go out, go in, go out, go in, like this. And then this is called oxidative phosphorylation. Oxidative phosphorylation. So we have ADP. I add phosphate to it, phosphorylation. And I get oxidation in order to get this hydrogen out, oxidative phosphorylation. ADP become ATP. So this is the whole entire process. You get T2 from the glycolysis, 2 from Krebs cycle, 32 to 34. The total is 36 to 38. Do I remember it? Should I remember it as a range? Yes, you need to remember it as a range, because there are another 2 here that might or might not come. So these numbers in the red circles are numbers that you definitely be asked about it. Definitely. You need to know these numbers. Okay, it's the core of the chapter. Formation of ATP breakdown in macromolecules is called
Cellular.
Cellular respiration. Yes. There are 3 stages. Number 1, if you guys are following, what's the first stage of the 3? Glycolysis. And the next one is called Krebs or citric acid. And the last one is 3 pieces.
Electron transport chain.
Exactly. Electron transport chain. So glycolysis happen where? Cytosol or mitochondria. Where? Glycolysis, the first one. It's in the cytosol or cytoplasm. Does it need oxygen or not? No. It's called anaerobic. You break down what? Glucose. How many ATPs you get? 2. Krebs cycle. Does it happen in a Christie or matrix? These information in this slide are the basics that you have to know. I know that I'm just explaining it. I understand that. But later on, when you study, make sure that you know this. This is the minimum. Glucose, and you get 2. Krebs cycle. Does it happen in the Christie or matrix? Matrix of the mitochondria. Does it need oxygen or not? Of course, yes. And that's why it's called aerobic. And you get how many ATPs out of this? 2. Electron transport chain. You get 32 to 34 ATPs. It happened in the mitochondria, in the Christie folds. Do I need oxygen or not? Of course, yes. Both of those 2 need oxygen. It happened in the mitochondria. We call it aerobic. Overall, how many you get? 36 to 38. And you will be asked about this. And here is our summary of all what we talked about. As usual, this is summarizing what we already mentioned. So I don't have to repeat, but just understand that you need to, this is like, the summary is the basics. If you don't know the summary, it's an issue. You have to memorize the summary. So understand the whole chapter and then go to the summary. It will give you the basics after you finish the chapter itself. So the summary is for you to, after you finish, watch the videos, read the slides or both of them at the same time, and then do these kind of fast quiz or testing your information, and then go through the summary. After you do the summary, you should be able to answer the questions. So this is the summary of all what we talked about and the main parts. Anything that I didn't cover is too much details for this course. I know exactly the SLOs. I know the core of the chapter. I'm telling you exactly what you have to know. So anything beyond that is too much. And that's it for this chapter. I'm going to stop here and stop recording.